essentially every economic sector is impacted, right? Because we're not just dealing with China. There's been tariffs imposed on just about virtually every country around the world.
Hi, I'm Peter Kramer, Digital Communications Coordinator with the State Bar of Wisconsin, and I'm at the annual meeting and conference here in Madison talking with some of the speakers and other legal superstars in the Wisconsin legal community, and I'm joined by one of them. I am joined by Barrister Fonkem, who is at Amundsen Davis LLP in Milwaukee, who just finished up a session that is all about trade policy. So welcome, Attorney Fonkem.
Thank you so much, Peter, for the wonderful opportunity to discuss with you some of the ongoing issues that have taken over the headlines over the past few months, at least since President Trump came back into office. Thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your session really was about?
Our session was about trade policy in the new administration, what business leaders, what attorneys should be doing to advise their clients on what they need to do to mitigate, reduce, avoid the impact of the trade disruptions to their respective business.
Trade is all over the headlines right now. And so I know that it's coming up in client conversations. So what is the one recent trade policy shift that Wisconsin business clients are asking most? And how should attorneys kind of translate that into next steps?
I say the one key policy shift, which is not going away anytime soon, is the U.S.-China trade tensions. So attorneys that represent companies that have supply chains that are tied to China, and even if their supply chains are not tied to China, they're still impacted indirectly. What they need to be doing is they need to be advising their clients to have both a short-term as well as a long-term plan, and how to mitigate the impact of those tariffs or those trade actions to their business. So from a short-term plan, what do I need to do right now to mitigate, reduce, avoid the impact of those restrictions in my business? And long-term, if I have supply chains tied to China, what do I need to do to sort of de-risk those supply chains? Perhaps move my manufacturing operations out of China into a much friendlier country. Now, we have to be able to balance that with perhaps if they have significant business operations in China, now they have to be looking at the reverse de-risking. Like, for example, I have a client who's a significant portion of their business, it comes from China. So what we are currently doing right now is to work with those clients to set up a new manufacturing operations in Poland, where they have a facility where they can start making products for the Chinese market. So we're looking almost essentially a reverse nearshoring sort of business operation.
You mentioned China, and I think what comes to mind for a lot of people is a lot of the volatility that surrounds trade policy in China. What do you think attorneys really kind of need to know?
I think they need to be essentially watching some of the ongoing developments that are happening from a trade standpoint. It is my belief that it's only when they understand some of the policies, the larger policies driving the law, it's only then that they can begin to anticipate where things are headed from a trade standpoint. And it's only then that they can begin to advise their clients on what sorts of strategies they need to put in place to mitigate the impact of some of the effects of this recent trade shift to their business.
Are there particular economic sectors that you feel are really impacted more than others, and especially when it comes to like compliance costs or litigation?
I think, as you've been watching, essentially every economic sector is impacted, right? Because we're not just dealing with China. There's been tariffs imposed on just about virtually every country around the world. Now, with specific to China, of course, sectors like the semiconductor industry, advanced technology, I think that's something that there's going to be a lot of compliance obligation, at least from an export perspective. Not necessarily from an import perspective, but from an export perspective.
All of this trade policy discussion, how is it impacting small businesses, and how should small business attorneys really be thinking about it and advising their clients?
I think obviously small businesses are probably impacted a lot more than some of the larger organizations, just due to the fact that maybe their margins are not as large, at least from an input perspective, from a cost perspective, as compared to some of the larger organizations. Now, given that some of them may not have the resources to hire trade consultants and experts to advise them on what they need to do to plan for the future, I think maybe one good strategy that they can begin to look at is maybe join some of the trade associations whose role are to essentially advocate for them to the administration. And that could be a way to collectively essentially inform the government on some of the issues that are impacting their respective businesses.
So it's a big topic. If you were to leave attorneys, Wisconsin attorneys, with one piece of advice when it comes to this topic, what would it be?
I would say they need to advise their clients to be, under this new environment, to be flexible, to be pragmatic, and to be adaptable. And I think that's really what lots of companies now have to do if they want to be able to survive and thrive in this changing global trade environment.
Very good. Thank you, Attorney Fonkem at Amundsen Davis LLP in Milwaukee. So appreciate you talking with me and just for being here at the annual meeting and conference and sharing some of your knowledge with the Wisconsin legal community.